The ambassador from Mexico is in New York this morning, Arturo Sarukhan. Mr. Ambassador, thank you so much for joining us. The president goes to Mexico this week at a time when the Mexican government is fighting these drug cartels. Nearly 7,000 people killed in the violence down there last year. Number one, what do you want from the United States on this front? And what will your president be telling President Obama when he gets there?
First of all, Bob, that as most things in life, you need two to tango. And as Mexico seeks to shut down the flow of drugs coming into the United States from Mexico, from South America, we need the support of the United States to shut down the flow of weapons and bulk cash. I think that it is very clear that President Obama has been seized by the importance of the bilateral relationship since even before his administration kicked off. The flurry of visits by Secretary Clinton, Secretary Napolitano, Attorney General Holder down to Mexico in the previous weeks, I think have started to push the ball in the right direction. I think the key issue right now is how can the United States help to shut down those guns and shut down that bulk cash that is providing the drug syndicates in Mexico with the wherewithal to corrupt, to bribe, to kill.
In your estimation, where are most of these weapons coming from? From the United States?
90% of all weapons we are seizing in Mexico, Bob, are coming from across the United States. Just on the Arizona and Texas borders with Mexico alone, there are approximately 7,000 FFLs, federal firearms licensees. And a lot of the weapons that are being bought by the drug syndicates, either directly or through proxy purchases, are coming from those gun shops.
The National Rifle Association and the gun lobby takes issue with your statements that most of them are coming from the United States. What data do you have to back that up, Mr. Ambassador?
Well, the data that we have is the one that we have been sharing with our counterparts in the U.S. government, ATF and the Justice Department, and other agencies that have been working with us to determine where those guns are coming from. Look at the most recent large seizure in Reynosa, a town that is on the border, in November, in a military checkpoint just about 3-4 kilometers into Mexican territory. We seized more than 250 assault weapons and 500,000 rounds of ammo. These have just crossed over the border from the United States into Mexico. By tracing back these weapons, by looking at the types of weapons, we're determining that most of these weapons are coming from the United States, Bob.
I don't want to belabor this, but they say that the people who take issue with this say that actually only 17% are coming from the United States, that the rest of them are coming through Central America, some are coming from Israel, from other countries around the world, and coming in through Central America. So how is it you can be so sure that so many of them are coming across the border, in your view, from the United States?
It's not only because of some of the tracing that we're doing with ATF, our partners in ATF, and some of the numbers that we're looking at there, but also because of the types of weapons that are coming through our border with Guatemala, Central America, but they're mainly grenades. Most of the grenades that we're seizing are the ones that are coming from Central or South America. Most of the assault weapons are coming from the United States.
Do you think, or would you advocate that the United States reinstate the ban on assault weapons, because that ran out, I guess, last year? It's obviously a very controversial thing in this country. Will your president tell President Obama that that needs to be done?
The assault weapons ban ran out in 2004, Bob, and since then we have seen a dramatic rise of assault weapons being seized in Mexico. There is a direct correlation between the expiration of the assault weapons ban and our seizures of assault weapons. We cannot determine how Congress and the administration will move on this. What we will say is that this is one of the instruments, by reinstating the ban, that could have a profound impact on the number and the caliber of weapons going down to Mexico.
What about the call by some in this country that more National Guard troops or federal troops should be placed along the border with Mexico? Do you see that as something that would be of help?
I think that some of the steps that the administration, the Obama administration, has already taken. 3 weeks ago, Secretary Napolitano announced a significant ratcheting up of ATF and ICE agents along the border to do southbound interdiction of weapons and guns. I think that is very effective, very productive. Sometimes I think it can be even more effective than placing National Guard troops because these two agencies are charged with interdicting these weapons and bulk cash going down into Mexico. So we do see this as a very positive step in the right direction. We think that ATF and ICE should play a more prominent role along the border.
There's been a considerable publicity, of course, on this side of the border about tightening up security along the border, the talk of building the fence and all of that. Has any of that had any impact on the number of guns and drugs that are coming across the border?
Not so far. And again, what we have to understand here is that we will be able to control our border if we can control illicit traffic moving in both directions. The drugs moving north, the weapons and the cash moving south. We will have to work together. And it behooves Mexico to ensure that this common border is secure, that we're doing things on both sides of the border to jointly ensure that the border is secure, that the well-being of our citizens on both sides of the border is being protected, and that together we are shutting these guys down, both in El Paso, but also in Ciudad Juarez.
Do you think this war can actually be won, Mr. Ambassador?
I think that the Mexican government is moving in a very, very strong fashion forward to shut these guys down. I think that if we can mitigate the damage, the levels of violence, we can continue breaking down some of the drug syndicates' organization, if we can continue to shut down some of their trafficking routes, their staging ground, we will be able to make great, great, great progress in the way that we fight against the drug syndicates. But again, it's going to have to be done in a holistic fashion. It's going to have to be done on both sides of the border. And we have to be aware that if we're very successful in Mexico, this will create problems for other countries in the region when drug traffickers decide to relocate because the opportunity cost of doing business in Mexico has risen.
Is it still safe for Americans to go to Mexico, especially to the border towns? I know in Juarez, for example, the number of killings there is just astounding. What would you advise Americans who might want to go to Mexico?
Well, I think that if you go to Juarez, I would certainly advise precaution. I think that this is one of the places where we are pushing these guys back. We're shutting them down there. And this is a place where we have seen a high concentration of drug-related violence. Almost 70% of all drug-related deaths in Mexico these past 2 years are concentrated in three places: Culiacán, Tijuana, and Ciudad Juarez. But if you go to the rest of the country, you will find a country that is at peace. All tourists that have been going down these past months can certify that this is so. So yes, if you go to a place like Ciudad Juarez, I think that precaution is necessary, but violence is not prevalent in all of Mexico's territory.
Mr. Ambassador, what if marijuana were legalized? Would that change this situation?
This is a very divisive issue. There are proponents and opponents on both sides of the border. I think that those who would suggest that some of these measures be looked at understand the dynamics of the drug trade, that you have to bring demand down, and that one way that you could do it is by moving in that direction. But there are many others who believe that by doing this, you would only fan the flames. This is a debate that needs to be taken seriously, that has to be, that we have to engage in on both sides of the border, both in producing, in trafficking, and in consumption countries. And it is a debate that has to be taken on with seriousness.
Mr. Ambassador, thank you for being with us this morning. A very serious subject. This will be a very important summit, obviously, in your country. Thank you so much for bringing us your point of view on it this morning.